broken system, chained and tangled up in lies. Voices shouting, screaming in defeat. Politicians playing games under darkened skies. Hope lost in the dust of the street. Red and blue, colors pouring from the sky. Debates turn to anger, the crowd gets loud. Punches flying in the blink of an eye. Truth buried deep beneath the shroud. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak don't survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Faces on the screen, flashing perfect teeth. But behind those eyes, just rot and greed. Politicians turn to whispers beneath. They all just get what they need. Whispering conspiracies, drowning in their lies. Echoes of freedom, lost in cries. Spin the wheel of fate, let's see who rise. But this game will bleed you dry. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Bullpen, where we're going to be talking some politics, watching Kamala Harris pull out new fake accents, and a whole bunch of other stuff from this week, including John Fetterman once again proving that his brain may work better after having that stroke. And I can hear Chad, so that's good. Becoming a full-fledged conservative. Definitely. Oh, they're saying, I know, but they're saying there's no audio for Chad. But we got our first membership of the morning. Eric Myers just became a member. Thank you, Eric. We'll have Chad reload and see if that fixes his audio, because I can hear him. So he'll reload, be right back, and then hopefully we'll be able to hear him. And supposedly, Mr. Mad Mardigan is going to be joining us at some point this morning, or at least that's what he said last night, and then I haven't heard anything from him, so we'll give Chad a second. While we're waiting on him, let me set this up, and we will go ahead and show our first clip of the morning, which is Kamala at church this morning with a whole new accent. And Chad's back, so let me replace him. Not yet. All right, let's see if they can hear you now. Say
All
something.
right. Can chat hear me? Can we confirm? Is my audio actually coming through?
Chad's talking. Is anybody hearing him?
Oh, we got a. Is that good to go from Slender? All right,
Seems like it.
cool.
Unless Slender's saying he's got to go.
Nah, dang it. Now you're. All right, Josh is confirming in a
Yeah.
way that we understand with English words.
Oh, those? All right. Well, I'm getting ready to pull up Kamala and we'll get rolling.
Yep.
I just got to mute her real quick so that I can bring her in. Because nobody wants to hear her disembodied head saying anything yet. So, how was your week?
I was completely entertained the entire week by terrible town halls, amazing podcast interviews, people booing Kamala because Beyonce didn't sing a song.
So true. All right.
It's found a new career I want as a whale psychiatrist.
I want to be a whale psychiatrist too. It seems easy. Just keep them away from sound, right?
Want to do a Seinfeld clip in that moment, Joe Rogan. I was a whale psychiatrist.
So here's Kamala's new accent.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. The path may seem hard, the work may seem heavy, but joy cometh in the morning, and church morning is on its way.
They're
Wow.
at church morning. It's not on its way. They're there.
Yep, yet another another accent. This time she's going with the black pastor. So,
But I told you this when we were talking pre-show. She may be
As a
worse.
nation, we face.
Oh, go ahead. I was
no,
gonna say
my bad.
she may be worse at the black scent than Hillary was, and
Right.
that's. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the genetic testing, but she may have more foundational Black American heritage in Hillary than Kamala does.
It's true. And she does carry around hot sauce. Oh, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention yesterday was the anniversary, the 8th anniversary of the greatest tweet ever. The
Happy birthday!
happy birthday to this future president.
If Trump does nothing else in his lifetime, even if he somehow doesn't win the election, being able to have knocked off the Bush and Clinton dynasties is still laudable and history book worthy.
Yeah. It's so nice that they are essentially out of everything now. We don't have to ever hear them again. But apparently the black pastor accent did not go well for her because this happened a little while later at her church, or at this church. And it's something that happened at her rallies too. So,
As a nation, we face real challenges. We carry.
she's getting booed out of a church.
What's crazy is she wanted to do her new canned "You're at the wrong rally" response, but I
Right.
think her brain malfunctioned because she was at a church and she's like, it wouldn't work. Yeah, it was like a computer having the error, like a syntax error. Syntax error. Can't say rally at church.
Right. Yep. But
And she couldn't be
how bad
rude
do you have to be
because
to get booed out of the church, though?
and
I mean,
her
that's
normal thing is to be cunty, but
Mhm.
she couldn't be rude. That pardon my language, but she deserves it. She couldn't do that because in a church setting she's supposed to be more respectful and all that. I mean, so it was a great malfunction there. I mean, it's not as easy as when she was in Houston and she tried to like go ha ha, like Trump is doing a rally in Houston. It's like,
Yeah. I mean, the rally down the street line, she's used it at least 2 times that we know of now. The first time may have been off the cuff, or it may have been a fed line to her to try to use. The second time you use it, it doesn't work, especially when there's not a rally down the street.
yeah, I mean, if you're a comedian, you can't use the same heckler response every time, or it's not funny.
Yeah.
And this is a situation where it's not like the crowd didn't know this response was even coming. She's done it several times before.
Yep.
Come on. I mean, what is it? Come on, man, to do the Joe Biden. Come
Come on,
on,
man.
man. Come on. Kamala. Seriously. Not joking here. Don't use the line.
I'm being serious.
For real, not a joke.
Yep, and Biden's come out a couple times this week and ripped apart Kamala unintentionally again, but we don't have any clips of that. But yeah, he keeps just reinforcing that she is completely linked to him and everything that his administration did, which is absolutely screwing her in every way possible because they're desperate to get away.
What is crazy to me is that she's now done, and this came up in the again in the town hall. You got to know if you're Kamala Harris. The number one question you're going to be asked again and again is how would you do things different? How are you different? How are you different from the administration you're part of? And she still can't answer the GD question in any way. Like
Yeah.
it comes. She just goes like in the town hall. She just went Trump, 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 Trump.
Well, she started with the one. Well, first off, I'm a woman. I'm obviously not Trump or Biden. It's like, okay, uh, that's your pitch. The difference
I
in your policy is going to be you're a woman.
I know this is not like Time Cop, where two physical bodies can't occupy the same space. I can grant you that you are, in fact, a separate physical entity from Joe Biden. What people are asking you about is how would your policies differ?
Yes.
Even your economic plans are just what Biden had already put out, except you increased it by like 10 grand each program.
Yeah. That the things that we have heard from her, half of them were stolen from Trump, and half of them are just stolen from the Book of Marxism. Because the no tax on tips, that was Trump's. Um, she's gone with the 25,000 for new homeowners. That just raises more debt and cost people 25,000 more when they're buying a house.
Look how
Yeah.
good our chat is. We've got multiple people pointing out the one thing she can say. I was raised in a middle class family. I was born in a middle class family.
Yep.
It's like
Grew up in one of the most affluent areas of Montreal.
you were
Had
raised
two
in
parents that
Canada.
were tenured professors. Crazy.
Oh,
Hey,
it's
good morning, Davina, over on the Green Machine side.
yeah, because Davina is still apparently persona non grata on the YouTube side.
Yeah, that's what
Unfortunately,
I've heard.
I wonder if Culture can pronounce the name right on the Green Machine writing of it instead of the YouTube version.
I don't know. So Kamala had the Houston rally where she had Beyonce there, and that didn't go well for her. Beyonce and what's her name, Kelly Rowland, is that?
Kelly Rowland, yeah, that's
Yeah,
Beyonce's. That's the one she kicked out of. No, it's the one she let stay in Destiny's Child. Everyone else got kicked out and rotated.
right. So she marched her around in a suit while
Why would?
Beyonce wore a small dress,
Did you
and
notice? Yeah, Kelly Rowland was wearing the KGP giant suit, little head look.
yep,
Is that a thing now? Like, are
I
we trying to be Bob from Beetlejuice?
I don't know what they're doing, but it looks ridiculous.
Yeah. When we play the clip, if you've got it.
No, I don't have that one.
Oh, we don't have the clip. All right. If for people to understand, if you remember Corinne Jereen Paul, whatever Pierre,
Green
whatever
Jean Pierre.
Corinne Jeff, she always annoys me. I don't bother leaning her in it. She wore this stupid suit like 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
where it looked like 8 sizes too big for her. It looked like a 4-year-old dressing up in a suit for a teenager.
Well, and it looked like almost like the Joker suit from the Keaton Batman.
Yeah, and it doesn't work, man. And I don't know if apparently it's a look that people are like on purpose going for. Oh, we got Pinochet coming in.
Yep. Pinochet's helicopter tours for $2. I was caught in the 2006 mortgage scam. This is just going to speed us to another subprime lending into bailouts for corporations. Yep. What was that one? The Frank Dodd stuff
Dodd-Frank.
with
Yeah.
Dodd-Frank with Penny Mac and what's the other one that they had created? Fannie Mae.
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
Freddie
They
Mac.
were, yeah. Um, and then that was because we repealed a bill called Glass-Steagall, which had created firewalls between institutional lending and banking to avoid that situation where you would package loans for mortgages, especially into investment vehicles and make them a risky thing where there's certain investments you don't want to become like, hey, let's go for big risk, big reward.
Right.
Mortgages are that. You don't want to be encouraging people who can't afford a home to get a mortgage to then get foreclosed on. It's bad for everybody. But we had people who decided to create subprime mortgage backed securities. Now we're getting into the financial lending hour, and we don't need to really get. But point being, adding a plan where all you're going to do, and this is what Kamala wants to do, is to go back to allow people who are unqualified for loans to get loans for mortgages they can't afford, but by giving them 25 grand to do it to start, is not going to magically make them be able to afford their monthly mortgage. What
Right.
will happen is they'll
Especially
buy
with
these
interest rates
houses.
where they're at.
Yeah, they'll buy these houses. They'll be in the houses for about a year to 18 months, and then they'll be foreclosed on. And when they get foreclosed on, I don't know if anybody looked at houses post mortgage crisis. People didn't take care of those houses by the end because they had no reason to. Sometimes they purposefully said, F it, if I'm getting kicked out, I'm going to mess this
Vandalize
place
the
up.
house.
They look like murder houses. When I was buying a house coming off of the mortgage crisis, and we constantly, like, we were looking at short sales because they were pretty cheap, right? Why pay more
Yeah.
than you need to? And these houses were destroyed. They were terrible condition. Like, if you bought them, you might get that money off, but you're going to be investing. Like, our real estate agent was like, we can get a special type of mortgage that includes all the renovation costs in the mortgage, because you're going to have to basically, oh yeah, he's
Redo
in
that.
one house, they were like, they tore out all the copper pipes. They
Yep.
they were doing all this stuff. I was
Cat
like,
piss
no.
everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, no, 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 no. Then we ended up getting lucky that we had a short sale where it was because the people who were short selling were going to buy another house that they wanted to move up, and me and my wife were moving into our starter home. So
Yeah.
we were going into a townhouse that they were selling short sale, because they had to short sell it to actually move it in the market as it was. And they were going to they were getting a short sale on a full family, like single family home.
Right. The full size starter
Yep.
home. Pinot Shave for another $2. I had to join the military to get out of the bank coming after me. The trade-off is now I am a banker's worst nightmare.
Yeah, I can tell you, yeah, there are special provisions to keep banks from going after military personnel for loans and things. And
Yeah.
we ran into that. I ran a healthcare office that was right offside of military base, and we would have people come in, get treatment, optional treatment, and then not pay. And when we were trying to go collect there, it was like I would had to explain to the owners, well, we're SOL. They're like, why? I was like, they, after the Iraq war started, they passed laws. As long as they're active duty, we can't do anything to try to collect this debt,
Yeah.
basically. So what we can do is sit on it and just keep trying to check every few years if they're still registered as active duty. And then once they're no longer active duty, we can attempt. He's like, that could be a decade. And I was like, if we're lucky.
Yeah.
So you might want to just write it off. Sorry. It's not worth it.
Well, yeah, so the Harris Houston thing. So she got booed there too, and this is where she tried to use the other line. So we'll take a quick look at that. Well, not use the other line, use the exact same line once more. So this is what
Harris
happened.
is
At
Harris
this
is like
point.
a toy you buy it at a store, and the box would say with 12 phrases.
Right.
She's got
Pull the
like
string.
12 phrases. Yep.
Yeah. She gets so pissed at people for heckling her, even in the slightest way. It's great.
So yeah, that's her reputation from like where, if people hadn't paid attention to Kamala, and I don't blame them for the last several years, she has a reputation. She had the highest turnover of anybody, even in the White House, who employed a staff.
92%.
92, 93%. And the word on Kamala is she doesn't ever like anyone to question her. And if you question her even remotely, you're out.
There
Or
were the reports a couple years ago that you were not allowed to look her in the eyes as her staff. Like if you
And
passed her in the hallway.
yeah, and that's she's had this reputation even going back to when the first time she was actually able to be in control of a staff was as district attorney. So that's where she like even back then she had a lot of issues as district attorney with staffing.
Yeah.
So she's not a nice person. I mean,
No, I think
I
most
get
would say she's a raging bitch, but
yeah. I dropped my C-bomb earlier. I feel like I should rein it back in. You are monetized. I don't want to get that thrown off immediately.
yeah, start off real well with just getting completely shut down.
Yeah.
I don't think the words are going to do it. I've been on Comics Channel. So
Yeah. By the way, chat, feel free to look at getting memberships if you haven't already. They're available.
We set up memberships, and we've got the super chats going. And hopefully some of the membership benefits are ones that people want. But somebody in chat, who was it, just a couple of minutes ago, brought up the Elon thing that he uploaded on Kamala. I do have that. We can show that now. It was Soul Assassin asking about that. So this one's a little bit long. It's about 2 minutes, so maybe 2.5 minutes, but it's well worth it. So we'll
it's
we'll
about
this real quick.
This length of the clip is about how long Kamala used to take on Willie Brown.
Ooh, I bet that stung.
Dear Kamala Harris, let's get one thing crystal clear. The vast majority of American men have no issue with electing a female president. Our issue lies solely with you. You were second in charge of California for 13 years.
As California's Attorney General, Harris promoted enforcement of a law that allowed prosecutors to seek jail time for parents of truant kids.
As a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
She's so proud of this, too.
I was like, how can you lock parents up?
If you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
I opened the door and I see at least 7 or 8 cops wanted to arrest me. As a matter of fact, they did.
And frankly, you know the prosecutors in my office who volunteered to do this? My homicide prosecutors, my gang prosecutors. And they went over there and I said, when you go over there, look really mean.
She had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital and had missed some days of school.
I learned that with the swipe of my pen, I could charge someone with the lowest level offense. That person could be arrested. They could lose time from work and their family maybe lose their job. They'd have to come out of their own pocket to help hire a lawyer. They'd lose standing in their community.
I lost my job and couldn't pay rent, and we got evicted.
Weeks later, I could dismiss the charges, but their life would forever be changed.
I became homeless. We had to move into a motel.
All because of the swipe of my pen.
I don't agree what Kamala Harris did to my mom, and I don't agree with what she's done to other parents as well.
You were second in charge of the United States for 4 years.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Inflation is hitting the highest level in 39 years. A record high number of illegal crossings.
Crime's been surging across the nation.
Huge spikes in homicides.
Could we be heading toward World War III?
After 17 years of failed leadership, you are now asking us to trust you as first in charge of our country.
Is that narrated by Caviezel?
Big issues. Elementary and middle school truancy is actually a big issue. If we're trying to save the state money. Because of truancy, California public schools lose $1.4 billion a year in funding. I want money.
My message to all Americans, do not trust Kamala Harris.
As men and protectors of women and children, you are simply a risk we are not willing to take.
Paid for by Maha Alliance and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Yeah, so that is, as Pinochet, I think, said, from the RFK Jr. side of things, but that's a devastating ad. I don't
It
think I've
is.
seen a more effective ad.
The intercutting the clip of, because number one, on its own, even without any of the stories that the people were saying and sharing,
Just her
Kamala going
words.
up there saying that she would purposefully charge someone just to destroy their lives and then dismiss it weeks later is the definition of prosecutorial misconduct. That is, prosecutors are supposed to have an ethical bar because we have a society have recognized that prosecutors have an oversized ability to F with people.
Yeah.
And so they have very strict ethical standards to never bring a charge that they do not believe is genuinely supported by the evidence and that would reasonably result in conviction. It's ingrained. Like, you go back and watch just old Law and Orders, it's always there.
Yeah.
And she was on that stage just cackling it up, talking about how she could devastate people and just dismiss it a couple weeks later. She should be disbarred. Like the stuff that we have California bar going after attorneys that sent out strategy papers on the election in 2020, and they're disbarring them. We have her as a prosecutor talking about engaging in the worst kind of abuse of power, and they're endorsing her for president.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like Joe actually going out there in front of cameras and saying, "Yeah, well, I told them if they didn't get rid of the prosecutor, they're not getting the $1 billion. You know what happened? They did." I mean, it's a full-on admission of guilt.
Yeah, Joe Biden was even, well, son of a bitch. Guess what happened 2
Yep.
days later? He was fired.
Real quick,
Message
we
got
got
through.
Mephisto's movie reviews coming in for 15, whatever Israeli is. Congrats on monetization. Any plans on election night stream? Yes, we are doing an election night stream. It'll be myself, Little Chad, Comics Division, Carrie Smith. I did get confirmation that Mike Harlow will be stopping by at least for a few minutes. He may not be there the whole night, and we've got a few other people coming. So we will be, I think we had decided on 7 Mountain, 9 Eastern to try to kick it off.
Yeah,
that
because
should be when the first polls are closing, and we're actually got some information coming in.
Most on the East Coast, most states will close their polling at 7 p.m. But the way it works is if you're in line, this is well settled law. If you're in line when they close at 7, they let you finish.
Yeah.
So results will be starting to come in starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. That means when we go on at 9, we'll probably, and this will be like states like South Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, they'll be called, Tennessee is weird because it's like 3 time zones are in Tennessee, or 2 time zones. It's half central, half eastern, so it gets a little weird. But we'll have at least several states
Slender
already
will
called.
also be there.
Yeah, so it'll be, we figured 9 p.m. would be a good one where we'd actually have some results to talk about, and also have like some horse race as they're counting some of the important states like Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina. Here's the for people who are going to watch on the eastern side. Once if we see a situation where Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia can be called early, it's going to be a Trump wave. So just be ready.
Yep, especially Pennsylvania. If we see Pennsylvania fall early, which I'm sure they will do everything they can to hold it up for a few hours, but
they did it in 2016.
Yep, but that'll be the big one that we'll be watching throughout the night. I think, kind of like, in years past, we used to watch Ohio and Florida. They're not so much the states to worry about now.
So Southern Bell says there's two time zones in Tennessee, and it closes at 8. Please say that's confusing. That because in part of Tennessee they'd still say that they close at 7. Right. So it's 8. Yeah, by 8 p.m. Eastern, all the polls in Tennessee should be closed.
Yeah. But we got plenty of other stuff in the Eastern time zone that'll be closing.
Yeah,
So
and yeah, it'll be an extravaganza of election fun. We'll probably be checking in and stream watching a couple other ones, depending on how the results are going. It'll be fun
stream
times.
sniping the
Stream.
Young Turks a little bit, maybe.
Oh, you know that I'm waiting
keeping an
for.
eye on Cenk.
I'm gonna be keeping an eye on Anna, kind of like on the side, probably going like, "Yep, good job,
Yeah.
good
I
job,
told you guys
America."
this was a Trump win. Yeah, it should be a fun night. Hopefully, not too long of a night. I really don't know if we'll have our answers on election night or not. But if you see some of those states fall early, then there won't be anything that can be done. So we'll see. We got some Senate races and, of course, the House races to watch to see who's going to have control over the country.
Ooh, yeah, Virginia
right
7
now
is going to be an awesome one to watch.
Yeah, and at the moment, the betting markets at least are saying that there's a very good chance of a Republican sweep. So we'll see how it plays out. Everybody needs to get their butts out and vote.
Man,
get your butt
speaking
off
of
the couch.
The betting markets
Get your husband's butt off the couch.
have been going like it is starting to get. If I was a Kamala fan, and I'd be looking at what Polymarket is showing lately.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it has basically been steady at 65, 34, 35 for like a week, and it's not even moving. Like there's people trying to swing it. You can see when they drop money at like midnight, and it doesn't dent it. It'll like short term move Kamala up a point or two, and then the rest of betting market just comes in and trounces it.
Yeah.
The polls are starting to shift. They're getting there. We're getting our final polls in where the pollsters want to not get blown out of the water. So they're shifting
everything's
things to be
yeah,
ties, and they're shifting it to ties.
Right. And with a tie, we know that's typically going to be truly about a 3 to 5 point actual Republican lead. So,
yeah.
And it's still just polls. People have to actually cast the votes. That's what the election actually is.
It was interesting that Rasmussen pulled a Harris +1.
Yeah, he said he wasn't sure how the weighting got there, but he expects that's an outlier poll.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, that's within statistical noise to have a 1 point shift, because I think they had it at Trump +1 previously. So
+1 or +2, yeah.
But even these are likely voter national polls. So if the national is polling like at a +1, we've talked before about how electorally that's good. What's really crazy is that the Real Clear Politics average is now Trump +0.1.
Yep, and we'll get to showing that stuff towards the end like usual. But
yeah, so
I did want to show this one I found this morning. It's just to demonstrate how absolutely fake and staged everything about this campaign is. This is Gretchen Whitmer and Kamala at a bar pretending like they're having a conversation.
Is Gretchen feeding a chip to her? Because we
No,
know Kamala likes
one.
Doritos.
But Gretchen seems to be upset that they might have heard her F-bombs.
Yeah. Oh, we have microphones in here listening to everything. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. So, well,
You'll
now
bleep
tell
my
us.
F words.
We just told all the family secrets. Shit. Anyways, good to see you. Okay,
can you get more fake and staged than that? Oh, let's turn and look over our shoulders and say, oh look, there's some microphones here.
We're doing everything we know to do. She's been on.
This is again, I have perfect opportunity to relay my conspiracy theory. Gretchen Whitmer does not want her to win. She's doing these things as the minimum to show that she's on Team Kamala.
Right.
But Michigan's gonna end up going Trump. Oh no, I couldn't get you that win, Kamala. Sorry. And Shapiro's gonna be in Pennsylvania. It's amazing how they managed to actually suss out a giant election fraud situation in Pennsylvania with like a week to go.
Of course. And now they're saying, well, we saw the same thing in 2020. There was a whole bunch of registration fraud, and it just happened to be at the same time that Pressler was working in Florida. no evidence of anything. Just, Pressler's there, so we've got to discredit him.
Well, this one, yeah, no, I think this one was this wasn't a registration fraud against Pressler in the accusation. This one,
they've been trying to link it just because they think they can get away with just linking his name, since it's a well-known name about registration in Pennsylvania.
I know. I'm just going on the fact that the reason this stuff is even coming is Shapiro's letting it happen so that he can be, oh no, we couldn't get you, Pennsylvania. Oh no, we got caught. Sorry, Kamala, we can't do it openly now. Sorry. It would have been different if I was vice president, but I guess I wasn't, so couldn't help you.
Energy 85 says, I bet Kamala doesn't finish the beer. With all the rumors of her alcoholism, I bet she does. It's probably not good to put your alcoholic candidate into a bar for a cameo thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be funny if you're if you're Josh Shapiro and you want to increase your political bona fides. How great is it to be able to say all the polling said she would have won if she had picked me, but she didn't, and now she lost. It's always good to be the person who would have won. That's what Joe Biden's saying in the background in the West Wing now, by the way. Like, how stupid is Kamala? How stupid are all you people who pushed me out and put her on? The only coherent statements he's apparently making in the West Wing are telling people how dumb they were to put Kamala in as the candidate.
Right. Come on, man. I'm the only person who beat Trump. I'm still going to be the only person who beat Trump. I mean, that's what he's going to hang his hat and his legacy on, is he beat Trump and then was forced out by the rest of the party. And he'll claim, for the next few years to his dying day that he's the only one who could have beat him again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're already. I've seen stories online already about, because Michelle Obama was doing a speech in Michigan, like, look who we should have nominated, which is so silly. I always think that's funny when people are like, Michelle Obama polls so high. It's just like Oprah. You poll artificially and see what happens once they actually start running and have to open their mouths on real issues as the candidate.
Right.
Yeah. Wow, that one is. I don't know. The USA is no place like home. Is that that's
well?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's plenty of stuff coming out. As much as I don't like Candace, there's plenty of research she's been doing into Kamala's heritage. But Mod Eric K for $1. Steve Garvey has a good chance to take out Adam Schiff. Hopefully they do not fortify it too much. I would love to see Schiff out of the government.
Yeah. There's two politicians in California that I would literally dance a jig to see them lose an election. One is Adam Schiff, because he's such a terrible person. The other is a state senator, and I think you know who I'm talking about, Brahma. Mr. State Senator Wiener, out of or whatever his name is, the one who's always who had them take the pedophile protection, like put pedophile protections in. He is apparently finally being credibly challenged in his election.
Yeah.
Because he may have finally gone a bridge too far in the stuff he's been putting in the California legislature.
It's amazing what they will say is just now getting to be too far. Joy Reid has some thoughts about Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and Trump being elected. So I clipped this out of like a 4-minute clip where she's just going off. But
and then
here's
the last
Joy
thing
Reid.
I will say is that if Donald Trump does win, there won't be a Democrats go back and figure out how to get more voters and figure out how to change your positions. There will be camps. There will be Project 2025. There could be arrests of people like Adam Schiff. There could be Nancy Pelosi being hauled off to jail. And if you don't think that that's possible, then you really don't understand that there is no American exceptionalism. We're just a country like every other country. My father lived under Mobutu Sese Seko. If you ran against Mobutu Sese Seko's party, you went to jail.
So let's break that down.
As Trump is being prosecuted in 4 states,
right,
for running against
apparently American exceptionalism has already devolved because the Democrats have already done this to Trump. Trump has shown no sign that he would ever do anything. In fact, during the Rogan interview, they talked about Hillary. And Trump said, no, it'd be bad for the country if I had done anything. As much as I may have wanted to, there was no chance I was going to do that because it would be bad for our country. And here they go with, he's going to put people in camps. I wonder if they ever hear themselves. And I wonder if the people who actually take them serious actually listen to the words that are coming out of their mouths.
Here's the thing that they would say. They're going to conflate the internment of American citizens of Japanese ancestry in the 1940s with possibly interning and arresting people here who've invaded our country illegally and before we deport them out.
Yeah.
That is not internment in the sense of internment camps for citizens of your country. This is basically makeshift prisons for people who have committed crimes because you just don't have the space for the sheer volume of people who have committed this crime. That's a staging area. Do like Sheriff Joe used to do.
Internment.
Yeah, that's the right way to put it. This is detainment for people who have committed crimes versus internment for people who are risks to your national security. And I'm gonna, not to say that I genuinely believed in the 1940s that Japanese, Americans of Japanese ancestry were genuinely like that. I think that is a stain on the American history that was also perpetrated by a completely democratic government. Democrat as in Democratic Party.
Yep.
Republicans didn't have any control over that shit. And yet we somehow get blamed for it, which is the craziest thing. All these things were always done by Democrat politicians.
Well, it's the projection. It's the same as, the Republicans are the racist. No. History shows that your party did all of these things. And your party has been the party of actual racism for, decades, centuries. It's funny how once you've captured the media, you can just perpetrate these lies.
It was that reminds me of one of the Rogan answers. They're going after Trump to try to be like, look how cognitively impaired he is because he misstated the name of one of Lincoln's sons who died. He said Tad instead of Willie. And
because Tad died about 2 to 4 years after the assassination.
Yeah, which I mean, but this is another one of those.
The point of the story is that one of his sons died before.
Yeah, and what Trump was, and this is where they're missing. Trump was expertly weaving, like instead of a standard politician answer, you get Trump actually telling a story about how impactful it was to see where Lincoln slept, see the desk he was writing the Gettysburg Address on. And see that on that desk, he had pictures of his children, one of whom died, and talking about the severe depression, the crippling depression that Mary Todd and Abraham Lincoln were suffering through after their child died.
Yeah.
And instead of recognizing how meaningful that is as an actual expression of the gravitas of the moment of taking on the role of the presidency, they're like, well, he said Tad.
He said the wrong kid's name.
I would love to ask any of these people if they could even name Lincoln's kids to even get them to know that Tad was one of the names of Lincoln's kids. I mean, it's so
actually
stupid.
That's the only one I knew.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was another one.
Because there was movies and little, stuff where they made things about. And that's what it's crazy that they're going to try to, what they're going to try to own. And it just shows you how effective his Rogan appearance was. Yeah. Where he was doing long form answers.
And 3 hours of an interview.
And it's crazy. We finally got the name for what Trump calls it when he's doing his tangents that come back together. He calls it the weave. You got to weave. You got to be able to weave things. You do your stuff, but you weave it back into the point you're making.
Eventually. Sometimes. Most of the time. Sometimes.
But and at the same time, you got to, Trump's like, you got to be entertaining. You're talking up there. You're giving stories. You can't just, otherwise you come off just as a regular politician.
Yeah.
And
Aaron's right. The Rogan episode makes Trump look like a normal human, and Kamala looks like she's completely manufactured. I really honestly do not think that she can last 20, 30 minutes with Joe Rogan. Because I don't think that she has the ability to have a conversation with somebody, just a normal sit-down conversation, without looking like a complete freaking idiot.
She had, what was it? The Fox News interview was supposed to be 30 or 40 minutes.
Yep.
And they came
Showed
in
up 17 minutes late.
It's late, so that they only effectively had around 15 minutes, which we saw basically the whole thing before Kamala's handlers were yelling the cut it, cut it, cut it in the background, like, because we're done. She was on a CNN town hall that was probably around 45, 50 minutes of actual speaking time. In addition, in between commercials and things. She couldn't handle just Anderson Cooper pushback.
And Anderson is about as nice and softball-y as you get as a Democrat.
The thing she wasn't prepared for was the fact that Anderson Cooper, in an act of, as Rush Limbaugh, we used to call it, like, drive-by journalism, where they're, a random act
Suddenly they get a backbone.
A random act of journalistic integrity. Anderson Cooper said, "You called the border wall stupid, all these things. Now you're campaigning on doing it. Is a border wall stupid?"
And she goes all the way back to Obama and says, well, Obama had a bit of a wall as well.
So okay. Are you saying it's not
only
stupid?
good when it's you guys' wall, but if Trump builds the wall, that's when it becomes an issue. That's where we're going with this.
And the entire country now is prepared when they go out there and say a border wall would cost $10 billion. We can't afford that. And now we've got New York.
What we've sent to Ukraine.
Yeah. In addition to that, we've got people in, like New York and Chicago who are like 10 billion. That's what we spent just 6 months housing all these illegals in our cities.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll gladly spend the 10 billion on the wall. And then they're like, well, deporting all these people would cost another 15 billion. And now they've made it mentally prepared the entire country to go sign us up, put it on the company visa. Let's get this done.
Yeah, we're ready. Eric K for $5. Kamala, if she tried to do Rogan, she would be confused. The only time she has ever spent 3 hours with a bunch of men, she was on her back and knees.
That's a big credit to Willie for lasting that long. Good for him. What I was going to say,
there were others hanging out too.
If Kamala does end up going on Rogan, she's going to be like, "Can we all smoke pot now?" I think it'll help.
Yeah, that may be the only thing that actually humanizes her if she goes on Rogan, is if she does actually smoke with Rogan. Because you knew Trump wasn't going to. He's never touched anything. So
no, Trump. I mean, that's a plus in my mind for Trump too. You can see Kamala. Some of her appearances this week have definitely reeked of wine drunk Kamala, where she's been a little slurry and having a little bit of issues, even more than normal, which is another thing she has apparently a reputation for.
Well, maybe she's just sleep deprived, like she was on the day that she chose Tim Walz as her running mate. Because she did claim that at one point. Oh, the only reason he's my running mate is because I was sleep deprived when I was making the decision.
I wanted to pick Shapiro. I screwed it up.
Well, we're not going to do a ton of clips from Joe Rogan, but we will do one just so you got anybody who hasn't seen it gets a taste for how the interview went. So let's listen to this one, and it's about 1:30, not too long. Oh, I don't think the audio is going out.
That's so crazy.
Fix that.
The rebels are Republicans now.
It's playing now. Yep.
So like, you want to be a rebel, you want to be punk rock, you want to buck the system. You're a conservative now. That's so crazy. And then the liberals are now pro silencing criticism. They're pro censorship online. They're talking about regulating free speech and that regulating the First Amendment. It's bananas to watch.
Joe, they come after their political opponent.
Well, they
I
do.
got more guys. I always say, I kid, but I'm not kidding. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the meanest of them all. He'd kill you in 2 seconds if he didn't like you, right? I've been under investigation more than Alphonse Capone. only because it's political opponent stuff. And
I know. I remember when we watched this clip for the first time, I was like, he's the only guy that gets away with saying Alphonse Capone.
Right. Everybody else, it's Al. But for Trump, it's Alphonse.
You win.
Like,
you know what?
I knew him.
They did
A
something
lot of
that's
people
only
said he
done in
was
third
he
world
got a
countries.
scar, but it was a little scar. I was like, Alphonse, that's not a big scar.
Used to do great things with baseball bats.
Came after their political opponent.
Yes.
I could have put Crooked Hillary in jail.
Well, not only that, but they're weaponizing it by saying that that's what you're going to do once you get in office.
Isn't it
by
great?
ignoring what they're doing right now. It's crazy.
I heard it. Somebody was defending me today. They said, no, they say that's what you're doing to him. They're going, he's going to put us in jail. He's going to invest.
That's what you're doing.
That's what you're doing to him.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, will you do that? Will you do that to him to them if you win? It's the presidency has tremendous power. I could have put Crooked Hillary.
I respected that you didn't because what you said was it would be bad for the country.
Yep. And he was right. As much as I loved the campaigning on it and doing that stuff, Trump won. He did the right. It was the right call because that is the tradition in the American system. You just move forward. You don't try to, and this is where they broke because in 2020 they won, and so they instead of moving forward because of the way they had gone after him, Trump was already indicated he was running again, and they knew that without the specific circumstances of 2020 as facilitated by China, they weren't going to be able to pull off probably an upset outside the margin of cheat for Trump. So they immediately went to their plan A was special prosecutor Jack Smith. And that got blown up because thank God Eileen Cannon in Florida got assigned that case. And she started asking real questions about that whole stupid classified documents case, which is
right.
There's a lot of.
I mean, it would have blown up either way at the Supreme Court because he was illegally appointed.
Yeah, but the important thing they wanted. So, and we've talked about it before. Jack Smith's job wasn't to have a prosecution that would stand up on appeal. His job was to have a prosecution that got a conviction, because they wanted a conviction on compromising national security. And they didn't get that. So then they went to plan B, which was they dusted off the Alvin Bragg case in New York, where Alvin Bragg this is how bad it was. Alvin Bragg originally said there's no way that none of this stuff is against the law in New York the way it was done, so I can't prosecute him.
Right. DOJ
has some meetings. They have the number 3 person in the DOJ resign and suddenly take a job as a regular, rank and file prosecutor in New York City. And then magically the case gets resurrected because they find a way to conflate bookkeeping things into felonies, which if you listen, I highly recommend people listen to the actual New York Court of Appeals because they have the audio and video of that hearing where the New York appellate judges are like, what in the hell are you bringing us? Like, can you name one case where someone's ever been prosecuted for this? And the people are like, well, we've got, and then they to clarify, can you name one case where it wasn't the bank taking advantage of a person who got a loan that was prosecuted for this? And then they go, well, no, we don't have one. And it's like, well, that seems pretty ridiculous.
Yep. They tore those prosecutors apart.
And then they did Plan C, which was Fonnie Willis over in Georgia, and that one's falling apart. And I love the fact that it's falling apart because Fonnie couldn't keep it in her pants. Yeah. And now that we've got
Nathan Wade's flipping.
Yeah, Nathan Wade is going to Congress and under subpoena to Congress. Magically, his memory improved, and he's like, "Yes, we did have meetings with the White House about this."
Many of them. Yeah. It's amazing, again, just the amount of projection, because we all sat here and said this is all lawfare for the past year. I'm still not convinced he would have run or won the primary if they had not started the lawfare.
People were ready to move on to somebody like DeSantis.
Yeah. And they might have.
The
until
problem was
the
they
raid on
dropped that
Mar-a-Lago.
indictment. They did the raid on Mar-a-Lago and they dropped those indictments, and it became a matter of right and wrong on a moral fundamental level. And then DeSantis also fumbled.
Yeah.
He had the opportunity to go out there and be very anti-abuse of power, and he initially took the tact about, well, we've got to let the process play out. And that was the exact wrong thing to say if you wanted to, because I knew a lot of people who were ready to go to DeSantis because they thought he would be like Trump, but he would be effective as a executive in a government setting.
Right.
In a way that Trump wasn't.
Yeah, because DeSantis is great with the media. He's great at answering things on the fly. He wasn't that great at campaigning this go around. He's going to need to polish that up. But that's if he ends up being the heir apparent, because I think that's where J.D. Vance is getting groomed.
Yeah, that's the thing. J.D. Vance has trumped him. No offense, no pun intended. Trump, because all of JD's positives are the same that we thought DeSantis had, where he's able to deal with the media. He's a more professional person than Trump is generally. And the thing that JD Vance does that DeSantis doesn't, JD Vance, because of his background, speaks to Trumpism and populism in a more experienced way than DeSantis does.
Yeah.
DeSantis comes off a little too much like Paul Ryan sometimes when he starts talking policy stuff, whereas JD Vance gives the hillbilly elegy explanation of my drug addicted mother who gave, who left and I had to raise my grandmother in Appalachia, gives you a slightly different view of populism. JD Vance has gone on picket lines with union workers, and there's no way I could ever see DeSantis doing that.
And that's not to say DeSantis is bad in any way. I like DeSantis, but I don't know that he's a great governor and he's great at governing. There's a difference between that and being able to actually run a campaign.
I know what Josh is getting to. Josh has made it clear he thinks that J.D. Vance is institutionally captured, specifically because he worked with Peter Thiel, and Palantir, which is his company, has a lot of extensive national security contracts. But I think that he is now on the Trump side, and under Trump's tutelage, he can move away from that. I think he was using Thiel as a stepping stone to move forward. And I do think that Vance, even if he's a more traditional politician, has the ability to hopefully make.
No, he's saying no. It's because you said trumped him. He's upset with the dad joke.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I was going the other way.
Pinochet for $2. Nope.
I think I had clicked that one before I saw that one.
Pinochet for $2. I hate the elites with the power of 1,000 suns more than I bow to Trump. Trump is like throwing a hand grenade on your enemies without facing the charges. Yeah, and ultimately Trump is a bull in the china shop. I think Vance will be a not quite a bull in the china shop. I think he'll still tear things apart, but I don't think it'll be. I think it'll be focused energy at destroying the China, not just running rampant.
Trump comes in and he's the bull in the china shop, and after it's all destroyed, Vance comes in and he's like, "Look, I'm a licensed contractor. If you let me do this, I'll rebuild
work with
it.
Your insurance.
I'll work with your insurance. We'll rebuild it in a fun look. This is our opportunity to fix it so that it's more structurally sound. There were some problems. There were some foundation issues. We're going to get all that worked out."
And I wouldn't be surprised if the coalition that's being put together right now ends up being the birth of a new party, or at least the death of the old party. We'll see how it plays out over the next few years, especially, after the election. But the coalition with RFK, with Tulsi, with Trump, with Vance, Vivek, all of these guys, it could easily form the ground for a new party to emerge from this.
I don't want to sound morbid, but it's the previous generation of Republicans who had a vice-like grip on the party and what they said, quote unquote, the party stood for. The Mitch McConnells of the world, so to speak, they're dying off. They're being replaced. Yeah. And I think the new generation of people coming up
fast enough.
Yeah, the new generation of the people coming up under Trump are going to be more Trumpy, broad-minded populists. Whereas, and goes the other way too. If you look, the next generation of Democrats coming up are the ones who've been indoctrinated at the campuses. They're going to be more Marxist, more openly Marxist. They're going to be more AOCs and squad members. So it's going to put it's a good opportunity for a populist conservative party to make really big inroads, because the Democrats are going to just get more captured.
More crazy and more progressive.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, they're going to go the way of the Young Turks. I mean, the Young Turks aren't Democrats; they are progressives, and that's that generation that's going to be rising in the Democrat Party. Deeple said, "I just want a government fiscal responsibility party to exist." I didn't mention Musk, but I'm hoping what Musk's role in the cabinet might be. I want him to go in there and cut everything. And he said that that's what he wants to do. So we'll see what we get out of it. But we've got a couple more clips. I did want to show this one of Fetterman, just because I think it's hilarious that Fetterman just keeps getting more and more conservative. So this is Fetterman with Katie Pavlich, I believe. So, or no, it's not Katie Pavlich. Katie Pavlich is who posted it. But yeah, we'll just play it.
Yep.
Give me just a second. Fix the
audio. I was about to say, he did an interview with Katie Pavlich.
No,
he's really
she posted it.
I was about to be like,
who the interviewer was.
I was like, Brahma, I think he's already turned.
Yeah, that would be.
I'll never forget. I live directly across the street from the steel mill, and we were doing an event there for Clinton. And I asked the union president, I'm like, hey, where we are on Trump? And he's like, yeah, probably half or 60%, two-thirds are voting for him. And I was like, oh, that sucks. And then immediately there was a guy getting off, and he had a truck, and he had truck nuts on it. Do you know what truck nuts are?
Do I look like I know what truck nuts are?
It's balls hung on the hitch of a truck. And he honked, and he was like, "Go Trump," as he drove by, and it's like, hey, we're in trouble, and it's undeniable. And
truck nuts.
Yep. Don't blame him. I mean, it's true.
But he's been out there saying what the rest of the Democrats won't say in Pennsylvania, that the people on the ground are definitely going Trump hard. You see any other Democrat going completely avoiding it, saying anything about how bad they're doing, because they're not going to admit that they're going down. But yeah, Fetterman just speaking what he's seeing. So I guess I can respect him for that a bit.
I mean, he's, like you said, he's about 2-3 strokes away from probably being a good guy to vote for.
Yeah.
I think Fetterman is also a very calculating political, like, he wants to stay in power. It reminds me,
at least his wife does.
Yeah, it reminds me, if you remember Arlen Specter, who was a longtime senator.
Yep.
He started as a Democrat, switched to being a Republican when he knew that would get him elected. Then he switched back when he knew that being a Republican would be a hindrance.
Right.
Because he was that committed to just winning.
Just staying in, getting his pension, getting his insurance, all that.
So part of me thinks Fetterman might be in the same boat, where he really, like, he's never had a real job. If you actually look at his biography, he's only ever had elected roles. So he's going to want to stick by that. And if that, I mean, Jesus, Casey is running ads talking about how he's on Trump's side for policy. So it's not crazy that Fetterman would be starting to say some of those things too.
Yep. All right. Wanted to show one of JD Vance this morning, just destroying Jake Tapper. This one's a little bit of a long one. It's about 2 minutes. We may not do the whole thing, but this is just to go to the discussion we were just having about JD's ability to talk about this stuff. So.
The Russia
audio
hoax
again.
nonstop. The FBI, ask yourself a basic
the way I bring
question
these
about
videos in, it
network
doesn't always get it.
integrity.
You guys talked about the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it.
Yeah,
The
it's
FBI
good.
was investigating it, and so we covered them.
And so you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it again and again. A viewer of your network would have believed that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin conspired in 2016.
No.
That was totally and preposterously false.
No.
Well, that's
What you just
that's
said is
why.
false. We covered an FBI investigation. I don't know why you want to talk about the FBI investigation.
You covered it in a way that gave credence to anonymous sources' accusations. You did it yourself. Your network did it, Jake. But again, can we talk about the issues that Americans care
I'm
most
talking about things that Donald Trump has said.
Yes.
If you have an issue
Kamala
with whether or
Harris-
not he's talking about the economy enough, that's between you and your running mate. I'm talking about things he has said this week.
Every single rally that he does, he talks about how he wants to unleash American energy so we can lower the cost of groceries. He talks about the fact that housing has become unaffordable. He talks about the wide open border, Jake. Kamala Harris and her allies, you know, it's interesting. Kamala Harris and her media allies, and I would put CNN in this category. You guys seem to care.
I'll tell you that. They wouldn't.
Well, they should watch your
wouldn't.
network more because you guys seem to care more about Donald Trump's past than the future of the American people. We're running this campaign on making the American dream.
I'm specifically asking about how Donald Trump is going to be president in the future should he win. And then we're being told
He's going to pursue economic policies that lower the cost of groceries and make life more affordable again. He talks about it every single day on the campaign trail, and so do I. What you're talking about is an anonymously sourced story, or one guy
Nothing anonymously sourced.
or who
Zero
one guy who is a disgruntled employee.
I told you
where
10
five other
people
pushed back against him and said that what he said was dishonest. So why don't we talk about the policy that's affecting American citizens and not what Donald Trump allegedly said, according to one guy who's pissed off because he got fired by Donald Trump?
Pretty effective takedown of Tapper there.
Yep. And he
got
is,
across all the talking points that he wanted to while taking down Tapper's point. So
exactly. And I hate Jake Tapper, and this is true. And I think I've mentioned before, Tapper is a great example, just like Stephanopoulos. These were not independent journalists that went to journalism school and pursued careers as journalists to get where they are. These are people who started as Democratic employees. They were, like spin doctors for Democratic politicians and parlayed that into jobs at media bodies like CNN or ABC. So the idea that Jake Tapper is some independent, dude who's just a journalist asking questions is bullshit. Fox News has more independent journalists as anchors than CNN does. Like, it's these guys were partisans. Look who's Brett Baer hosts their Sunday show, and he's a just straight actual journalism guy.
About the most boring guy on the planet. Yeah.
Versus ABC, where it's George Stephanopoulos, who was a Clinton campaign
manager.
We have Jake Tapper on CNN, who I forget which congressman used to work for, but it was a Democrat one. You've got on NBC, where it used to be what's his name on Meet the Press. It was he was he was also a guy who worked for Democratic politicians.
Was it Matthews that was?
I think Chuck Todd. Chuck Todd's who I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Okay.
And although I think they've replaced him now because they decided he wasn't bringing in enough ratings.
Right. Just before we get too far away from it.
Yeah, Chuck Todd worked for Tom Harkin. I mean, come on.
Pinochet for $1. Arlen Specter. He was given free rein because he agreed to steer the Warren Commission report and lie. He sold his soul for power, and then he did everything he could to hold on to it.
Exactly. Arlen Specter was Arlen Specter reminds me a lot of John McCain. John McCain was another guy who
just loved the camera.
Not to mention, John McCain was such an asshole. He divorced his first wife and left his child behind with her to move on to Cindy McCain because she had more money and would get him. There's a reason he got along so well with John Kerry, who John Kerry took the widow of a Republican politician and married her because she had money. That's why Teresa Heinz Kerry, the Heinz fortune, she got that money from her dead spouse. And so John Kerry wanted that money. He's always wanted money and power. there's a quote that I like. It's from a website I read that I won't mention, but it's that Democrats use money to gain power, and Republican politicians use power to gain money. That's the traditional way it's been. Like,
Right.
that, if you want to understand why Republicans never actually delivered on anything until Trump was in there, it's because the traditional Republican power broker just wanted to make millions of dollars in money from the power they had. And the way they did that was being grievance oriented and not actually changing things.
Yeah.
So
JS Pena is asking how we're getting super chats. They lowered the requirements to 500 subs just for members and memberships and super chats. So we are now monetized for that level. And Deeple 101 for $1. I recall seeing on X earlier this week 2 things about legalized pot and abortion, how the original bills allowing them, it was to be safe, rare, and in the privacy of one's home, and neither are now.
Well, I don't know that abortions were in the privacy of one's home, but I think that was more for pot. But yeah, safe, legal, and rare. That's what Clinton, in 1992, Clinton was going to be, he was the new Democratic, and people forget the terms right now because he was a new Democrat. That was the term they gave to the wing of the Democrats taking over at the time that were more, he was pro-death penalty. He didn't outright advocate for abortion. His position was the safe, legal, and rare, which means he was pro-abortion, but he just didn't say it out loud, which is why we've talked about how the Republicans need to understand and take a page out of that playbook. Go for the wins you can get. Don't go crazy on trying to look like you're banning, because the country's not there. Not there. So don't come out and say, I want a 4-week abortion ban or a 6-week. Don't do something silly like that. Right now, see what, if you could pass a 14 or 15, 16 week one, and that's what you can get, take it, because at least that eliminates the late term abortions and the other. It's like, start taking the W's where you can get them and move forward.
It back.
Yeah. Start walking it back, because if you go the other direction, you're going to end up getting what happened in Ohio and Michigan and Kansas and every other state where the choice was a straight up abortion ban at 6 weeks. They end up putting amendments to the state constitutions in that end, like in Florida's got that going on right now. Luckily, they're actually pushing back effectively about how Amendment 4 in Florida is actually super crazy and would allow no parental notifications, late term abortions, and all the rest. So you've got to take the W's. Don't, and which is why Lindsey Graham.
Don't be too hard-lined.
Yeah,
we want to get there, but we can't. You can't lose everything to gain that all at once. Hey, Chad, can you start the polling stuff and talking about that real quick? I've got to run just for a second. The wife needs something.
All right, let's see.
And apparently she needs it now. So.
All right, we'll start
bring it
with
up and I'll. Yeah.
I got Polymarket here, which will be a good one to start with.
All right, transition this over real quick for you, and then I will be right back.
All right, so we've got Polymarket, which is the betting markets. And what you're going to see here, and this is awesome, is that currently we've got Trump sitting at 65% and Harris at 34.8. And I've done this for a 1-month window, and you can see where the switch started just happening at the beginning of October, and it hasn't looked back since. Just in the last week, it's been pretty consistent. It opened up to around that 65%, and it's been holding steady. So the betting markets are 100%, not 100, 65% on board with Trump winning this election with about a week and a half, 2 weeks out. I think we're birth control and a quick solution to a problem. Yeah. That is an interesting thought. It's split like Kamala's legs. No, it's a little less wide open, Josh. That would probably be around a more 80-20. let's see. My problem with Polymarket is the people that participate. These people are involved and aware in what is actually happening. The Dems have a lot of folks that only the media tells. Yeah, and you can look at it if you go on a 24-hour basis, like you'll see where there's fluctuations, like these little blips. And sometimes you'll see random ones around midnight where people are trying to swing the market. But what it means, if you look at something that's this consistent, and that's where you see these upswings and downturns, it's somebody trying to move the market, especially right here. We don't have that happening. The market it's too big now. It's too known. They can't shift it. The money is where it's at. Now, part of that is mainly reflected in the polling. So we'll switch over to that, which is national Trump versus Harris polling, which you can see is now, this is crazy. It's polling Trump plus 0.1, which is unheard of because going back historically in 2016, it was Hillary averaging 5.6 plus, and in 2020, it was Biden plus 7.4. Now we've got Trump actually leading in the averages, and that's coming from the most recent ones going back are tie, Trump 3, tie, Harris 1, tie, Harris 1.
Yep, Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen has been saying, watch, they're all going to start lining up with us and Atlas real quick here.
Yeah, and Atlas's Intel's last poll was Trump 3. New York Times, CNN, New York Times. These are probably, if we're not the final polls, we're right at this is traditionally around when they'll drop what they consider their final polling for the election. At this point, barring something unheard of dramatic, the electorate is locked in what their choice is going to be. You might get a fringe voter or two, but you've pretty much locked where you're at. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't vote. Go early, go get yours done, bring someone else. The early voting numbers have been very encouraging. It's not that Democrats aren't winning early voting, it's their margins are down dramatically. And the people who are voting for the Republican side are the low propensity. Meaning propensity is how often you're voting in an election. High propensity is considered 3 out of 3 or 4 out of 4 presidential elections. That means every presidential election you show up and vote.
Yep.
And you can get those records. Low propensity is 1 out of 4, 1 out of 3. You're not going that often. Those are the people who are already voting for the Republicans, which means the Republicans have an election day I guess firewall, for lack of a better term, of their high propensity voters. And there's a reason culturally why they may be waiting. Some people who have done that view election day as a sacred obligation as a citizen. They're not as firm believers into early voting. So they want to go on election day, vote on election day, and get their vote in that way. So that's where those 4 out of 4 voters are still there. It's actually good for the Republicans that they're getting these low propensity people out there. It's great.
And that was me up until this election. I would only vote on election day, and I wouldn't use the Colorado mail-in ballot. I would actually go in and vote. And it was mostly like you're saying. I mean, it's just the traditional way that Republicans have done it. And I like the pageantry of doing it on that day. But yeah, at this point, no. We play by the rules that are out there. Get your vote in. Do not let there be anything that might pop up on election day that can stop you. I would also not be traveling or doing anything else on election day or the days after, because who knows what's going to happen after this election.
I do think that if we're going to do early voting, I much prefer it being early in person than the mail-in stuff.
Yep.
I like Washington State does universal mail balloting and is the stupidest, most retarded thing you can do. There's a reason Washington takes weeks now because they now hopefully, fingers crossed, there was a decision in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which was that all ballots, mail or otherwise, have to be received by election day to be counted.
Right.
Now the reason I'm
2 or 3 days afterwards, as long as it was postmarked crap.
Now the the Fifth Circuit only applies to like Alabama, Louisiana, and I think another state. It's a smaller. But the reason Supreme Court cases get taken up is usually what's called a circuit split, meaning that one part of the country allows something under their version of law, case law, and another part doesn't. It's a good thing. It comes up a lot in Second Amendment, gun cases, because, and this is, some states will do like assault weapons bans, and the states that are doing it tend to be blue states. And there's not actually a circuit split because no red state has ever passed a ban that got challenged in court for one of these circuits to overturn. So there's, a lot, it comes up in the 2A community because we want a circuit split to finally happen. So that's why the bump stock case got taken up, because one of the circuits, threw it out and another circuit said it was A-okay. So the Supreme Court has to settle it. That they are almost required when there's a circuit split to take a case instead of doing their normal thing where they can duck it. So I have a high hope that if we got now with this Fifth Circuit decision, if it's going to cause a circuit split, because you've got states like Washington that absolutely allow for ballots to be going in, weeks after, if they're postmarked, quote unquote, prior to or on election day, to be counted. So this should go up to the Supreme Court because the Constitution is pretty expressly clear that voting happens on election day, and that should clear up a lot of things. My guess is that the Supreme Court, as currently constituted, would probably duck it.
Yeah, likely.
But if we got to, who knows who's going to retire or have something happen, and if Trump's in there and we can get to replace
There's
him.
a possibility of at least two more appointments during this.
I can guarantee you, if Trump wins within the first year after the cases that have been picked up are decided, Thomas and Alito Thomas would definitely, because Thomas would not want to risk his chair being Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
right?
Replaced. So, yeah, this is Eric. Headline: Chad supports red state gun ban. It's funny because a lot of 2A lawyers have basically said they'd like it to happen just to create the split,
just to create the
because
situation.
Without a split, you never get a case that the Supreme Court has to take. If there's no split, the Supreme Court only takes it if they feel like it's a genuine question of constitutional law. And as we've seen, the Supreme Court is really good at not seeing constitutional problems when they don't want to.
Right. And the other thing that we saw on election day last go around was all the problems with, say, Arizona and having the wrong size ballots. Even if you were there in person, there was issues and people were being turned away. So it may not even be something that pops up just in your life that keeps you from being able to vote on election day. It can be all the shenanigans that are being pulled at the actual polling places. So I would just encourage everybody to get out there and vote as early as you can. We did have one from Pinochet's Helicopter Tours again for $2. Have you noticed an uptick in the Civil War chatter? It's an ominous acceptance feeling right now. Would you consider doing a show on the topic? We've mentioned it a few times on this show and definitely on Comic Show. I don't know what outcome of this election ends up being the one that doesn't push the country further into division. I know we're all pulling for Trump, at least I am and Chad is, but I don't know what we saw them board up everything last election in anticipation that Trump was going to win. And we saw the Summer of Love. We saw all that stuff. I don't know how they're going to take a major loss like this, especially if there's a sweep and Republicans take over all segments of the government. But I don't know. I don't know that the right is there on the Civil War stuff yet. I don't know that they need to get there quite yet. But if there's another obvious cheat, I think that could be enough to get some people a little bit more riled up than they currently are. I just don't think the right has a propensity for the violence that the left does.
I would say that there's a stronger likelihood, of the left going nuts in
It
all
will go nuts. We just
all
don't know to what
indicators,
degree.
yeah, all indicators are Trump's going to win, and my suspicion is that the current actual strategy of the Democrats is to try to hold the line on down ballot races, keep the Senate as close as possible. They don't. Here's the thing: if the Senate gets to around 54 or 55 Republican, that means even if you get the squishy Romneys of the world, Trump's going to get his appointees.
Yep.
Because even if they lose 6, it would be 50-50 and Vance would be tiebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
And that means
all indications are 51 to 52 easily.
Yeah, but what at 51, somebody like if people like Lankford and Romney wanted to jam up a nominee, they could.
Right.
Because 2 votes takes it out of being tied. But if you get to 54, a couple, like these guys trying to do that doesn't work.
Yeah, you don't have to make deals with them to make.
And and having that is how you get somebody like Tulsi as DOD. That's how you get somebody like RFK Jr. and at HHS. This, and that's, you can't underestimate the value
looking at the books
of how you, that's how you get, I mean, God help us if I would, this would be my dream pick, put Ron Paul in at the Fed. Let's see how
Right.
that, like, you want to talk about a hand grenade getting dropped in something? Let's make the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board is Ron Paul.
Put RFK in the CIA directorship.
Oh, I thank God the JFK stuff would finally get declassified. My worry, and I've said it before, is that in between winning the election and inauguration is where the shenanigans to take Trump out happen. Because there's going to be a tendency to relax because you've won now. But if they take him out before he takes office, it opens up all hell. That's the Raskin
constitutional
thing.
Crisis.
That's why Raskin was talking about a plan not through assassination, but through just denying him
not
certifying the vote, because then it would go through there.
Yep.
So
real quick, Eric K for $4.99. Very important after you vote to make sure that it was counted and counted correctly. Yep. Your each state you should be able to log on and check and see that your vote was counted. But yeah, I think they need to keep Trump somewhat hidden up until Inauguration Day, just to keep him out of public spaces after he's won the election, because who knows what they're going to try to throw at him in that time period. And they may still even be trying to jail him at that point, even though he'll be the president-elect. We'll see. But I think it's going to get ugly if the Republicans do win. I just don't know to what degree. So
yeah, it depends on how much they win too. So
yeah.
I would say
if it's 325 or so, I mean, and you get the Senate and the House, that's a mandate.
And if again the indicators are true and Trump wins the popular vote, I can't overemphasize how important that is to get him. I think Eric's made this point in our chat too. The number one talking point against Republican wins, when it's not, when they can't try to disparage it any other way, is, Hillary won by 3 million votes and she didn't win. Iowa is deciding who's president, and that's not right. Well, if Trump wins the popular vote too, they can pound sand. They're gonna be like, it's illegitimate. Trump won in California. No, he didn't. He's not going to win, but he ran up the number. He kept the numbers from being run up enough,
right?
That he actually, like, he's doing this rally in Madison Square Garden tonight. It's going to be awesome.
Doors just opened about an hour ago.
Yeah, and he's going to have the full crowd. It's going to be amazing. And people are like, "Why is he doing that?" He's cutting down. All right, he's got 2 points, and we talked about it. Number 1 is down ballot races.
Mm-hmm.
Long Island has Republican congressmen. There's parts of New York City that have Republican representatives. You want to make sure that happens. We had a guy who apparently had a
pulled people across in the 2022.
The reason the Republicans had a majority is because Ron DeSantis did redistricting right in Florida, and because Lee Zeldin kept the numbers close enough for the overall state and actually won in some of those toss-up districts that he pulled congressmen like George Santos across the line.
Yep.
And if you don't think it's important to make sure we recapture that Santos seat, which is now, thanks to a special election, not a Republican.
Right.
That's how we got down to 1 seat majority in the House right now when we had 6.
That
Because
and a whole bunch of spineless people getting out in states like Colorado just to screw with it because you couldn't have a special election or an appointment in the meantime, dealing with, say, Boebert's seat and a few other things going on.
Yeah, and that's why, and for Trump, it's important to have having a Congress, a House.
If he doesn't have the House, it's just impeachment after impeachment after impeachment.
Now, luckily for us, Chuck Schumer has now shown us the way with impeachment, where as soon as the House
Just
brings it
don't take it up.
over, you just table it and dismiss it.
Yeah.
That's
Play by their
apparently
rules yet
that's a
again.
thing we allowed to happen because we impeached Mayorkas, and Chuck Schumer said promptly accepted the paperwork and then did a vote on a party line, just simple majority, to dismiss and table it. And that resolved the entire thing, apparently. So we can just do that from now forward.
Yeah.
And the other thing is keeping the numbers down so that he doesn't lose New York as much, because if he cuts 3 or 4% off his loss margin in New York and California, he wins the popular vote.
Yeah.
So
you got to drive out the drive the vote up. So I think we're going to have a record turnout in this one, and not like a fake record turnout like we had in 2020. But like,
see, I don't know that it's going to be a record turnout, because I think Democrats are really.
I think we will.
Yeah.
I don't know about the overall election. I think the Republicans will vote for Trump in numbers that they did not even do in a record-breaking 2020 election.
I think Biden is currently the record holder for a vote getter, which was 81 million.
Yeah.
So I don't underestimate the psychological impact of him out Bidening votes this time too.
Yeah, that would be huge too. Pinochet for another $2. On November 8th, 1989, Lech Walesa, Poland's young prime minister, says to Helmut Kohl that Berlin Wall's not long for this world. Older Kohl laughed and chided Lech. Next day it fell. Things move fast. Yeah. And that all happened during most of our lifetimes, so things can change real quick. But
that's true. I mean, they wrote a whole song about it that got played while it fell. It wasn't a CIA op at all.
The winds have changed.
The winds have changed. I mean, it may have been a CIA op, but it still was a hit. So
it was a great song. Scorpions are awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to close out with one last clip because while there was the Joe Rogan and Trump interview, the other thing that was going on that night was Megyn Kelly was on Bill Maher, and she absolutely destroys Bill Maher.
Yeah.
So we'll show this, and well, actually, what do you got coming up, Chad? We'll do outros and show this as the outro instead of the intro for an outro.
Makes sense. Tuesday, I think we're doing our gaming stream on your channel here, where we're doing spooky gaming, Phasmophobia, probably on Tuesday night, and then my co-host Slender Dad, who runs the Ascendant Arcade channel, drops a lot of content over there, and he's been doing spooky gaming content for this season, so check out that. And then the main channel that I run and participate in, the Ascendant Art podcast here, you can find it on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, whatever, and that's Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. Brahma's pretty much a regular now, hanging out on that show. We get some other people hanging out besides my co-host Slender Dad, and that's just a good time where we just talk about whatever by the end of the week. And I think most people in our chat seem to have a real good fun time watching it, so hopefully they'll all join us.
They stick around for the whole show, so they must like something about us.
I know, we're good, we're chatty, we suck them in. If we could get super chats, it would be even easier, even better. But we don't have the subs yet.
We need some subs over.
We got Brahma over here looking at our sub count, being those are rookie numbers. You got to pump up those numbers.
Yeah, we got to get up to the 1,000 now. That's the next push. So as far as what I've got coming up, Comics Division on Monday night, the gaming stream on Tuesday night, Wednesday night. Don't have anything this week. No Christian panel. Thursday night back on comics, Friday Ascent and Arts, Saturday night we've got Bourbon and Boarding on my channel, and then we're right back here. So we will leave you with this last clip of Megyn Kelly taking on Bill Maher, and see you guys next week. And don't forget, election stream Tuesday, November 5th. Remember the 5th of November.
I'm not saying you don't have a point. I'm just saying it's hard for people to understand why that, which is not democracy, that's the border issue. And you're right, they fucked it up. That, with like the things he's been saying, and all the people in his administration who said he's a fascist, he wants to be a fascist, he talks like a fascist, his friends are all dictators.
I don't care about that at all. Not at all.
Because?
January 6th was not good.
Wait, why don't you care about that at all?
Because they've been saying that about Trump for years. They've been saying that about Republican candidates for years. It has like a long storied history. If you are at all center or center right, you are used to having your candidate of choice completely demonized, whether it's the F word, the R word, the misogynist word. They tried to tell us Mitt Romney was a raging sexist because of binders full of women. They tried to tell us John McCain was a raging racist, notwithstanding the fact that he had adopted a daughter from Bangladesh. They've been doing this for every Republican. They get to Trump, and we no longer are listening to them. Trump has incendiary rhetoric, there's no question, but we have 4 years to judge him by, and the country was going pretty well when Trump was in there, unlike the 4 years we've had under these two.
Well, I mean, I could argue with that too. Actually, if Trump had this economy, and I could go through all the stats, the stock market is through the roof, wages are up.
Not as high as it was under Trump.
Well, first of all, Trump inherited somebody else's economy.
That's what Barack Obama would like us to do.
Well, it's true.
Okay.
It's really on day one, everything changed.
So just walk me through it. So Trump has Obama to thank for his economy, but Biden can't thank Trump for anything.
Okay. Let's get off this. Because it's not what I really want to get to.
Down goes Frazier. Have a good one, everybody. We will catch you next week.
Bye.